Pastor Sam Nikkel, the E P Wahl Centre, Taylor Seminary in Edmonton, Alberta. Now, Sam, we're talking about boundaries, having rest, giving yourself permission to play. I have finally, after all these years, learned that. Why does it take us so long to come to that realization?
I think one of the key things here, Greg, is an understanding of our identity. I think all of us need to have permission to understand that God has created us as image bearers, and that God is actually the one who's doing the work. It's in His hands. He invites us to be a part of it, but our identity is in our sonship with God. We are children of God, and for many of us, we get our worth out of our performance. So if it's a job well done, we're feeling good about ourselves, and we think God's smiling. But the thing is that God loves us just the way we are. And so understanding our identity as God's children is what gives us the opportunity and the permission to say, I can step back and God will take care of things.
It's okay to go work out. It's okay to take a Sabbath day off, you know, just to relax, be with the Lord. I mean, those are things that we see in the Bible. I mean, Jesus himself went away. So why do we think, especially us guys, that we can somehow short-circuit it and do our own thing?
Right. The rhythm, and I'm glad you mentioned Sabbath, because it's really important for us not only to have a daily rhythm where we are replenishing our inner world, but also on a weekly rhythm where we take that time where it's not a Sabbath from life, but it's a Sabbath from work, where we allow ourselves to read, recreate, and do those things that replenish our inner world. Burnout is as a result of depletion. And so when we work and output, but we don't replenish the inner world, that's where that burnout happens. And Sabbath is a key practice and a discipline that helps us to restore and for the Lord to restore our inner world.
And it's not just in Christianity. You know, the idea of Sabbath or taking a day off. You even hear it now from secular psychologists, and that's saying you got to take some time. You know, whether you're the president or the prime minister, leading a business, being at home, which I know for moms is sometimes not easy. That's why dads are there, hopefully, or family members to help out, right?
Very much. I recently read a book it was about strategic pause, and it wasn't a faith-based book, but it introduced this idea that as we output and as we are on sort of work mode, we need to come out of that and take a pause and give ourselves a rest in order for our emotions and our minds and our bodies and our spirits to recreate. And what I'm going to say, sometimes people conclude that when they're burnout that it's necessarily a spiritual problem, particularly if it's a pastor. And what I'm going to say is that what the studies are showing is that it's actually generally, it's emotional depletion, it's physical depletion, and it's the result of the body actually being on high demand for a long period of time, and then that is what contributes then for that person to be able to not function.
You go, crash.
Crash.
What are you seeing at the E P Wahl Centre, Taylor Seminary in Edmonton? Pastors are coming to you, Christian leaders. What are you seeing?
Well, the first thing, Greg, is that we bring this conversation forward so that everybody understands the pastors are human, just like the rest of us. We need boundaries. And cultivating an awareness about the hazards in ministry is the first step that we take. Helping them to understand that they need to take care of themselves. And then secondly, once we cultivate the awareness, we also introduce the practices that they need to instill, the rhythms, the cadence of their life. So as I said, there's room for rest, there's room for work, and there's room for play and recreation.
And the key is you have to give yourself permission.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have a great wife, and she's for years said, you need to dial back sometimes, and you don't, then the result is a burnout. And oftentimes pastors will take, or Christian leaders, or even in the business world, take a time away. They analyze kind of how things are going, and then they often leave the ministry. I mean, we talked about the high numbers leaving. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that? And maybe there's somebody watching today, they think, or their pastor's in trouble. How do they connect with you, Sam?
First of all, what I was going to say is that there's hope. There's hope. And often in these dark times, we learn the deepest lessons about God. And they can contact me by getting to the Taylor Seminary website and go to the E P Wahl Centre, which is the Center for Lifelong Learning at Taylor Seminary. And there's a cascading down there, different ways. programs, pathways that they can plug into, and also there's a spot there for them to be in touch with me.
Okay, you can just Google Taylor Seminary in Edmonton. Sam, thank you for the great work that you're doing for these precious pastors, Christian leaders, people, even in the business world, that are dealing with burnout or struggle, and we're so appreciative of what you're doing. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Okay, we'll be back with more of 100 Huntley Street after this.